Good evening and welcome to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Norman Robinson. Here's something you're not likely to hear too often. New Orleans is about to be front and center in the fight to improve education in the South. Next Saturday, October the 8th, leading education innovators from all over will converge on Tulane University to participate in the Oxford American Education in the South Symposium. And if you aren't familiar with the Oxford American, here it is. It's a national magazine that features the very best in Southern writing while documenting the complexity and vitality of the American South. And this month's edition is all about education, and it features an article on the reformed post-Katrina educational system here in the Crescent City. The author says local families appear to have just three choices when it comes to the schools our children can attend. Option one, a segregated public school. The author says 90% of New Orleans public school students are African American, and nearly a quarter of the public schools have a 100% African American student body. Option number two, parents can pay to send their kids to what the author refers to as less segregated private schools. Or option number three, the charter schools where parents often have to compete in a lottery for a limited number of classroom seats. Kinda shocking, to say the least. I'm joined now by Miranda Restovich, the acting deputy director of the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities, and Patty Riddlebarger, Entergy's director of corporate and social responsibility. Thank you both for being here, ladies. What strikes you about this particular symposium, and why should the community at large care?
Well,
Ms. Riddlebarger.
What's happening here in New Orleans has the eyes of the world, well, the U.S. for sure, in terms of inner city public education, because so much change has happened since Katrina in the landscape of public education here, with the move to charter schools and the influx of new organizations coming in. Tremendous change has been taking place. Tremendous positive strides have been made, but there's still a lot that has to be done, and this magazine and the article and the symposium are really turning a spotlight on all of that, so that the nation can learn from the lessons that we've been experiencing here in New Orleans.
Are we going to learn from the lessons that we haven't mastered, Ms. Restovich?
I hope so. As Patty mentioned, New Orleans is sort of leading the charge in this new reform effort, which is really following national trends in chartering our schools, and we really have a system of schools, not a school system here, which is what the young lady who mentioned about the options that families have. Mm-hmm. So I think that while we've learned a lot of lessons on how do we take a system that was so distraught, that was so not serving our families, and get it to a place where we can actually start serving families and educating children, but we have reached a climax where we've kind of brought them up to a level, and now we need to do something more. And we hope that these conversations bring about new ideas and ways, and engage families in coming up with solutions so that more families have choice.
And the symposium is open to the public, and so we encourage anyone in the audience to attend. The symposium starts Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at Tulane University. More information can be found at the Oxford American website under the News and Events category.
Is this going to be a symposium where ideas are taken to better the system or to address some of the complaints? I noticed that this article, which is our favorite article, called "The Lottery Taking a Chance on Public Schools in New Orleans" by Ann Gislason, who is an alumni, I think, of an alumnus of Ben Franklin High School, talks about enrolling your children in segregated public schools, paying for them to attend a slightly less segregated private school, or competing with thousands of other families in a lottery for limited spots in racially and socio-economically integrated charters. That's a hard road for people to travel.
It was an excellent article, and you have to wonder about the challenges that parents face who are not well educated, who don't have a lot of time and resources to navigate the maze. So again, even though tremendous strides have been made, both in terms of academic achievement on the individual level in terms of the LEAP scores, as well as the numbers of schools that have moved from academically failing to passing status, there is still a long way to go, and parents have big challenges, and we're hoping that discussions that come out of the symposium will help them with some of the challenges and the choices that they have.
I was talking with Phyllis Landra, who's with this movement for early parent training and childhood development. She talked about the fact that 40,000 people are still falling through the cracks in this particular system. Are you concerned about how do you reach the 40,000 people who are still functionally illiterate and aren't being served by the new systems of education in New Orleans?
Yes, as a matter of fact, our program is, which is a family literacy program, works with Phyllis in the Central City area to try to really capture those families that are not engaged in the system, that are falling through the cracks, the intergenerational families who are having issues with just day-to-day, staying alive. So I think that we hope that this symposium brings about all of those issues, which it's great to celebrate progress, it is great to celebrate new innovations in education, but it's also really important that we keep an eye on the families that are continuously falling through the cracks. I believe it is 70% of our public school children attend charter schools. To get into those charter schools, families have to be equipped with the knowledge of what is the charter school offering, what is their attendance and acceptance policies, and how do they get their children into the system. And families who are illiterate or do not have transportation, it is very difficult for them to participate in an aggressive way to get their children what they want to get them, the highest possible educational attainment. So yes, I hope that we can address those families that are often left behind in these innovations.
In particular, one thing I'd like to mention is that we would like to encourage the business community to attend, because the business community has a vested interest in having the very best public schools that we can provide for our kids, because we will only be as successful as the communities that we are serving, and we need to make sure that the kids that are coming out of our system are ready to step into the workforce. And so one of the things that is happening post-Katrina, there was a lot of money that came in from outside to help fund the recovery of the schools. National foundations, federal money, other money. It's now, 6 years later, a lot of those were 3- and 5-year grants. The money is leaving. We need for the local community, and particularly the local business community, to step up to the plate to make sure that the reforms that have taken place and the progress that has been made is continued and improved to better serve.
Well, there's one thing that this
families.
article talks about, that the author mentions that there is a divide when it comes to quality education between the Canal Street boundary, which separates what's uptown and what's downtown. The businesses that you talked about seemed fully engaged in what's happening uptown, but what's happening downtown?
Well, the system that exists right now is, as Miranda mentioned, 70% charters, and so families can direct their children to the schools that they choose. But the issue is that families that have fewer resources, have lower literacy levels, have a much more difficult time navigating that.
And are we talking about families downtown predominantly who have the more difficult time navigating the system?
It's families that find themselves on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum.
We've had this discussion generally, and what we do hear from people normally is that you guys are just saying that charter schools are not working. We're not saying that charter schools are not working, are you?
Oh, no, absolutely not. The beauty of the charter school movement is that it rewards those that are successful, and it closes down those that are not serving the needs of our kids because they're not working. That's the beauty of the system.
But I will address part of the issue in terms of serving families where they are. Only 10% of our children right now go to neighborhood schools, which really means that we're spending a lot of money on transportation that could be spent towards other things, like other educational programs and support structures for families. And the other aspect of that is that there is a little bit of inequity in if you're not able to get your child into your neighborhood school, if it happens to be a good school, then you're forced to look outside of your neighborhood to find a place for your child, and then you're forced to put them on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning and not have them come home until 7 o'clock at night for dinner. And so I think this is a fundamental issue that we're going to be facing in the near future, which is, it's great that we have choice, but choice has to be sustainable and it has to be real for families.
And it has to be equitable.
It has to be equitable. The goal is for all schools to be providing a quality education.
All right, we have to take a quick break. We pause for this quick break, but when we come back, what we as residents can do to help speed up the recovery of the local educational system so that it is equitable, and why New Orleans is struggling while other parish public school systems seem, at least most of them, to already be back on track. Don't go far.